Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Saturday, September 20th, 2025, and today's topic will be drawing details of this forest path or path through the forest. And it's actually going to be the final sort of details, or fine details rather. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused, and to build a habit, I'll start a 10-minute timer. To begin with, I'll link to yesterday's video which showed the process, and then I'll put two before and after, or before pictures. So one is sort of what I call the sketch part, which is in yesterday's video, and then I did like a fast forward of like kind of the detail, or getting into the details of after like the light and dark, or the shading part of it. So I'll put a picture there. There's like step 1 and then 2. And then I spent an hour to get this far from yesterday's video, from what you can see in yesterday's video. But it's basically what I was doing in the video, detailing. But yeah, like an hour later, you're going to get this kind of thing. Now I'm using reference, so it's a little bit easier in some ways. But yeah, you can learn a lot by doing that, basically. After an hour, it's good, especially for this kind of stuff, to kind of leave it, because your eyes become kind of numb to the effect that it has. So pretty much it would be okay. I would call this, if this were detailed, I would call it, like, it could be like a comic panel or something, or just an illustration. I would say that it's fine. So there's basically still some things to detail, but then there's also like fine detail kind of stuff. I'm using reference, so it's helpful, but I look at this as a study more than anything. Like, I wouldn't use this for like my comic or something. There's a lot of principles that you can learn. So I haven't looked at it since yesterday. I can see that I want to, and this is where like reference is helpful, because if I didn't have that, then I would use like a thumbnail, for example. It just depends on what you want to do. But since I do have reference, then I can see that like I want to make this kind of darker, and it's not exactly like it. One thing I can do is just kind of go over like how to do that. So this is like a fine point, and like a medium, and then like a brush. So I'm just using those three. I tend to not use like the white paint, but you could, if you wanted to. Like I happen to leave this open as like the white of the paper. I like doing it that way, but yeah, if you have to use or if you just want to use the white paint, you can. I tend not to, just because I feel like it starts to go into like overwork, but it can also be a good effect. So one thing, for example, is now the drawing. So there's like a drawing. It's not really like a sketch anymore. It has like its own logic. Like it's its own thing now, especially in the detail. So I call this kind of like the icing on the cake. Like the cake has been baked. It's everything that's like, it's going to be the way it's going to be at this point. And I don't like to like fix anything. So unless like I have to. But so for example, this is like that bold, like brush kind of look. Now some of that is over here, like it can go darker, so I'm just going to pick like the medium one, for example. And I'm going to be pretty deliberate about it. I might turn it like this. And I'm not going to go too crazy on camera, because like you just have to take your time. I wouldn't recommend hurrying or anything. Like think more about like a good picture. But this is a demo. So an example is like, so I mentioned that initially it was from like light to dark, so like the white of the paper to like the outlines and stuff, and now I'm working from dark to light. So like that's a dark area. So I'm just gonna do cross hatching. I'm gonna do it lightly. Part of it is just to get like back into it, because I haven't worked on this since yesterday. And then part of it is just like the look, because like I said, it's the icing on the cake, so it's on the surface, but you're wanting the cake to be good. So that's what all the initial stages were for. So this part of this is unifying like the values. So I definitely wouldn't mess around at this part. I would have a very clear idea of what I wanted to do. So for example, I would do like the idea. So the idea was to make this darker, but also to add like texture, because that's the difference between just copying something and drawing something, because this has its own look. Like it's not a photo, and I'm not trying to copy a photo. I'm just using it as reference. So the texture is coming from like the medium, like the materials I'm using. So part of it is showing the material, but also unifying like the values. I made it a little bit darker to match this, but here you're not really seeing like the texture, and the texture is actually coming from like the pen and like the brush and stuff. So these are just some things to keep in mind if you want to take it a little bit further. So the other kind of thing with fine detail is just keeping in mind like the different like pen. So like back here, to get kind of like a gray look, because in the picture this is more like gray, like it blends together, but at the same time there's also like branches. So what I wanted to do was push some of these areas, like that's like a little too light, in other words. So I'm going to again turn the picture, because this is literally like what's on the surface of the picture, and I'm just gonna go over kind of what I did just a minute ago, but I'm using a different pen, like a finer point. So that does have something to do with it. Now you could just use one pen for the whole thing, and it would have like that might be like a good way to get started doing this, so that you don't get like too confused, because it all affects, everything is all relative, it affects each other. But some of that you're just gonna have to experiment with and see. So this is one way to kind of blend it, but like leave some open areas. But that's the benefit of having a reference, is because you can practice this, you can practice the tones. But that's really what detail is. And then the fine detail would be just like the actual like branches look. But like back here, for example, a lot of it is like blended together, and then you just have to do that sort of patiently. You just kind of do a little bit and then just squint at it to see if it looks like branches. Again, if you have reference, then you're able to kind of check. And obviously the more you draw certain things, the more used to it you'll get. So that's really what it is. The hour was just to get the detail. That pretty much set up the picture, and it wouldn't be like a bad picture. The fine details is kind of, yeah, if there's like maybe white highlights or something, but I kind of left it open. I prefer it if I can just, yeah, like not have to go in and like fix things. I haven't had to fix anything, I don't think. So, like, part of it is sort of the branches could be adjusted and stuff, but that wasn't really like right here. That wasn't really fixing it. It's sort of like it looks okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with this. So that's the thing, like don't mess with it. But you have to just experiment with it, practice with it, and come back to it, and it may actually be done. I can never tell. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And yeah, I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.